Morning everyone, welcome back, part 2. I'm just going to let Nellie go in the garden and then I will discuss what we're doing today. Okay, go Nellie. So, last time I saw you, I was painting in this sky and I've just warped it down and finished it off, so you can now see that it's a fairly straight horizon line. I've just softened it with my finger and it's a bit lighter. I lightened the top because it was a bit dark. And I've got some striations and I've got some cloud across the sky, and it's a bit lighter as it comes down here. Next thing to do is the middle section of all the waves. For that part, I've got a number of colours that I'm just going to use, and I'll point them out to you. I'm going to stick with this group of colours here. You could argue it's called analogous colours, which means on the colour wheel they're quite close together. And what I've got here is cobalt blue hue, phthalo green and white, and I'm going to stick with those 4 colours. The other 2 you might be interested in here. One is Payne's grey and one is a deep brown, and I'm going to mix that with a bit of white to make the rocks that I want to go in here, because on our picture that we're working from we can see there are different greens and blues in here, and just a different sets of browns and a lighter brown on the rocks. What I don't want to do is get caught up in having loads and loads of different colours and then trying to work them all in, and it just becomes a mess. So whatever I can mix up from these colours, I'm going to work across this middle band, which is where the sea is coming in. I'm going to try and get lots of nice marks today, move across like this so it's quite smooth, it's not sloping to the left or the right, and I'm going to try and get it so obviously basic principles of Impressionism. You could argue that they didn't use black, although Renoir loved black, but I'll just use grey and brown to put in there the rocks in. And in here I'm just keeping the colours quite simple so I don't get too confused, and I'll use my whites for the highlights of the sea later on. And what I'll be doing in this section is probably using a palette knife at some point just to make the waves look a bit thicker and bigger. So here we go, I'm going to start top to bottom. And just a final thing to remember is colours are usually, as they go away from you, they're usually lighter, and as they come towards you they become stronger because you're obviously nearer to them and you can see them more clearly. So I'm going to try and get that sense of paler blues, slightly darker and stronger greens as it comes towards the really interesting part I'll be painting in the next section, which is the wave breaking and then the beach. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to mix my colours up and try and get in a nice horizon line and then start working down the painting. I'm using quite a thick brush just so I can keep it quite simple. I'm not going to worry too much about what colours come out because I can obviously mix them all later. I'm not painting over the sky. You'll notice I'm going to leave a slight line to the sky. I'm going to rub that in with my finger to make it blend, so I'm not painting it all jaggedy. A little bit more water. Paint around the sides just to make sure there's no white. What you can do, this is a feathering brush. It's very, very soft, and you can feather the 2 colours together. I'm just going to blend them with my brush and use my finger to show you the other way of doing it. Now all I'm going to do is get my finger and just blend the colours together. Like that, so it's all approximately close together. And what I can do is with my feathering brush, just to show you how it works, is I can get a nice soft line. So I can soften all of that down. You can see the white is gradually disappearing. Now I just run my finger along and clean that up. And as that dries, I'll come back to it and just straighten it up a little bit. It's a little bit jaggedy, but that's good enough to start with. Okay, let's put the rocks in very, very quickly. For that, I'm going to use a slightly smaller brush, about a 1/4 inch flat brush, and all I'm going to do is take a bit of white, a bit of brown, a bit of grey, because I want all the colours to show through, like this, and I'm just going to put the rocks across here. And they're obviously on the horizon line, and they come into the picture a fair way. So trying to keep them running along the horizon line. They're a bit broken at the end, there's a bit of highlight. Slightly darker parts. Like that. And then what I can see, which is probably true, is underneath it there are some little waves breaking where they hit the rocks. So I'm getting a really thin brush now. Just need a tiny little bit of white, and I can just put that, suggest it across the rocks like that. And I'll stop there. So I want to see me do a little bit more of the green and the colours coming down. Now this is where I want to try and get blends of different colours. And you see lights and darks in the blues. And I've got to try and paint that in to see a sense of movement, but also the sense of the colours, and they've got to be fairly believable. Now I said earlier, if I had loads of colours, it would look ridiculous. It would look like a kaleidoscope. So by keeping my colours here and just mixing with these 3 or 4, I know they should all roughly blend together when I want them to. It's slightly lighter across here, slightly lighter blue. I want to make sure that my lines aren't sloping all the way down or all the way up, because obviously the waves come in bands like this, don't they, horizontally across towards you. So you want to try and get that effect in your painting. Now I did say I'll use a palette knife, and I'll show you how I would do that. There's a darker section up here where there's a wave breaking right in the top of the picture up here, and I'm just going to put a bit of green in there and then put the white across it with a palette knife just to show you how that looks. So what I'm going to do is just change my brush. I'm going to get a green, a bit of water, a bit of a green with the blue. So this is phthalo green mixed with cobalt blue and white. Comes across here as a band of colour, like where it's breaking. There could be rocks underneath, there could be reasons, there could be turbulence, the sea is moving, there are all sorts of reasons why, as it comes towards the shallows, there could be sandbanks, why the colours change and the wave breaks at different times. So I'm going to suggest some highlights, like this. That one's a bit, yeah. And then I'll show you with the palette knife. Let's just put this brush down. If I get my, and this is a palette knife, very small, quite flexible. And all I'm going to do with that is, by using the side of the knife and just pure white, I'm just going to show you how I would show a wave breaking. Too much paint. I'm just making really short marks. I'm just curving the blade like that to drag it down. What I'll probably do is put a little bit of darker blue under there later on when it's dry to show a bit of shadow, and I'll continue bringing the greens and the blues down now. So just watch me for a few more minutes, and then I will do the rest of the painting, and you can come back and see it later.